You don't miss them, you're addicted to how they made you feel. And the scary part? Your brain is wired to choose the wrong people. You meet someone, and something clicks. Not slowly, not logically, but instantly. You feel drawn to them in a way you can't fully explain. Even when something feels off, you stay. Even when it hurts, you stay longer than you should. And later, when it ends, you ask yourself the same question. Why do I keep getting attached to the wrong people? The answer isn't bad luck, and it isn't that you don't know better. It has more to do with what your brain confuses for connection. At the beginning, it doesn't feel wrong. It feels intense. There's chemistry, attention, moments that feel meaningful. But mixed into that intensity are small inconsistencies. They pull away, then come back. They give attention, then disappear. They make you feel special, then uncertain. And instead of pushing you away, this unpredictability pulls you in deeper. You think about them more. You analyze their behavior. You replay conversations. Your emotional world slowly starts to revolve around them. And even when you recognize the pattern, leaving feels harder than staying. This isn't just emotional. It's neurological. Because your brain isn't just forming a connection, it's forming a pattern of attachment built on uncertainty, and that pattern can feel surprisingly powerful. Here's the part most people misunderstand. You don't get attached to the wrong people because you're weak. You get attached because your brain is trying to complete something unfinished. Psychologists often link this to early emotional experiences, especially patterns of inconsistent attention or validation. If connection in your past felt unpredictable, your brain learns to associate inconsistency with importance. So when you meet someone who feels emotionally unstable or hard to read, it doesn't feel unfamiliar. It feels significant. Not because it's healthy, but because it matches a pattern your brain already understands. This is sometimes connected to anxious attachment, where the nervous system becomes highly sensitive to emotional availability. But even beyond labels, the deeper idea is this. Your brain is drawn to what feels psychologically familiar, not what is objectively good. Which raises a deeper question. Why does uncertainty make attachment stronger instead of weaker?
The answer lies in how your brain processes reward, specifically a system involving dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to motivation and anticipation. But here's something important. Dopamine isn't released when you consistently receive something. It spikes when the reward is unpredictable. This is known as intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When rewards are inconsistent, your brain becomes more focused, more engaged, more attached. So when someone gives you attention unpredictably, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, your brain enters a loop. Maybe this time it will be different. Each small moment of validation feels amplified because it's uncertain. And over time, your brain starts chasing those moments, not because they are enough, but because they are unpredictable. There's also another layer, a mental model we can call the emotional slot machine. Every interaction becomes a pull of the lever. Sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get a reward. And that variability keeps you engaged far longer than consistency ever would. At the same time, your attachment system is trying to resolve the inconsistency. It wants clarity, stability, closure, but instead it receives mixed signals, so it holds on tighter, trying to make sense of something that never fully settles. And this is where attachment to the wrong person becomes so difficult to break, because you're not just attached to the person, you're attached to the pattern they create in your brain. Breaking this pattern isn't about forcing yourself to choose better. It's about changing how your brain interprets connection. Here are 4 principles grounded in psychology. Your brain may confuse intensity with connection, but real connection is built on predictability. Example, someone who responds consistently, shows up regularly, behaves in ways you can understand. At first, this might feel less exciting because your dopamine system isn't being activated the same way. But over time, consistency creates nervous system safety, which leads to deeper, more stable attachment. When you're caught in intermittent reinforcement, your brain keeps expecting the next reward. To break this, you need to reduce exposure to the pattern. Example, limiting how often you check their messages, creating distance from unpredictable interactions. This works because it allows dopamine activity to gradually decrease, reducing the emotional pull. Something can feel familiar without being healthy. Your brain might say, "This feels right," but what it often means is, "This feels known." Example, you meet someone emotionally unavailable, and it feels comfortable, not because it fulfills you, but because it matches your past experiences. Recognizing this distinction helps you make decisions based on compatibility, not just emotional recognition. For many people, calm relationships feel unfamiliar at first, even boring, because there's no emotional roller coaster. But calm doesn't mean empty, it means regulated. Example, being with someone where you don't constantly question where you stand, where communication is clear, where your mind isn't always analyzing. At first, your brain may resist this, but over time, it learns something new. Connection doesn't have to feel unstable to be real. When you put it all together, a clear pattern appears. Attachment isn't just about who someone is, it's about how your brain responds to the emotional patterns they create. Uncertainty creates dopamine spikes, familiar patterns create emotional recognition, and your attachment system tries to resolve the instability. Together, these forces can pull you toward people who don't actually meet your needs. But once you see the pattern, it becomes easier to step outside of it. Not instantly, but gradually. There's a quiet shift that happens when you understand this. You stop asking, "Why do I keep choosing the wrong people?" and start asking, "What patterns is my brain responding to?" Because the problem was never just the person, it was the way their behavior interacted with your psychology. And once you see that, you gain something subtle but powerful: choice. Not just in who you connect with, but in how deeply you allow yourself to attach. Because real connection doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't pull you in and push you away. It doesn't make you feel like you have to earn stability. It simply meets you without turning your emotions into a question.